All right, so what we're doing today is a transmission fluid and filter change here on the 1991 Chevy K5 Blazer. This is a 700 R4 automatic transmission. And no real symptoms really of why I'm doing this. I just picked up this truck, and when I bought it, I put a little bit of fluid in there when I was leaving because it was low, leaving the guy's house. And I just want to flush out all the old fluid. I don't know what he was putting in there. I think he was putting in ATF +4, some Chrysler product, and it's supposed to have Dextron 3 in it. So we're gonna dump everything out today, and then we'll fill it back up with Dextron 3, put a new filter on, and hope it doesn't start slipping. Okay, so the step-by-step process of what you have to do on the 700 R4 transmission, there is no drain plug on the transmission pan. I actually did buy a new transmission pan that has a drain plug in it, so that should be easier in the future. But for now, if you guys are familiar with the transmission, to drop the fluid out, all you gotta do is drop the entire pan. It's gonna be 13 millimeter bolts. There's 16 of them going around the pan. Use an extension, a wobble socket, and that'll take all the bolts down. And then that's how you dump all the fluid. Then from there, what we're gonna do is just pull the filter off, we'll throw in a new filter, we'll bolt up the new pan that I bought that has a drain plug, and then we'll fill in new ATF from the top, and pretty much from the transmission check fill hole. That's where you're gonna empty in all the new fluid, and I'll take you guys through it right now. All right, so what we've done so far is we've dropped the transmission pan. Here it is on the floor. We've got some of the fluid left in the pan, and there's some in this catch bucket over here with a trash can over it, just to keep it clean. Now, all we had to do is take out the 16 13 millimeter bolts that go all around right up here, the side of the transmission pan. Take them all out. It helps if you take it out from this side first, undo these three, and undo the two on the side and work your way back this way. Stop when you get back here, and then just crack the front half of the transmission pan down so all the fluid falls out one way, and you can catch it with a catch pan a lot easier than dumping it all over the garage floor. And then you just take the rest off and it comes right down. Now, this is the transmission filter. We got it sitting down here. It just looks like this. Pretty simple. There's no bolts holding it on. It just slides right up in here into the transmission. If you look right in here, I'm gonna put the camera up there, there's an orange little gasket in there that seals it, and that's what you just wiggle it in there. And then I'll show you when I put the new one in right now. So there's the other filter. It is just gonna wiggle right in. About all the way up. Yeah. And it just sits right like that. All right, so this is the new pan, and it has the drain plug. The drain plug is oriented towards the back of the truck. By the way, I got this pan off Amazon. It was 23 bucks, zinc plated, standard 700R, standard capacity transmission pan. Here's the new gasket. What you're gonna wanna do is get a little bit of oil on it so it mates up properly, and then line up all the holes. It's pretty self-explanatory. They can only line up one way, so position it like that so it's ready to go up, and then we will bolt it onto the truck, and I will show you guys from there. Okay, so we're just lining up the gasket and the transmission pan bolts. Should go without saying, but especially if you're reusing the old pan, make sure you clean off both surfaces really well, just so you're not putting the gasket in between a couple rocks or something, because you will end up with a leak, and then that sucks. Another thing, sometimes what I'll do, if you've got like bolts that you're trying to get to go in a thread and you really don't want to strip them, like, I don't know, a water or thermostat bolt or something even like this, where I want it to go in properly and I don't want to deal with the cross threading, I'll sometimes put anti-seize on it to help it. I just feel like it threads in a little bit easier. And otherwise, you don't have to, not necessary, but pro tip, if you will. And then I'll just use the extension we're not gonna crank them all the way down to torque right now until we get all the bolts in and rather fastened down. Because if you do that, then the gasket may not seat properly, and you wanna make sure everything lines up before you go putting the bolts and tightening them down. So we're gonna do one on the opposite end. And actually on the 700R, at least on the thing I'm working with, every bolt down here is the same length, and thread, bolt size, everything like that is the same, so it doesn't matter. You don't need to do a cardboard template, and remember which bolt goes to which hole, because they're all gonna be the same. Okay, this is the last step. We're just gonna add new transmission fluid in. Like I said, I'm using Dextron 3. That's what it calls for. They don't really make Dextron 3 anymore. The permit for it expired, I think in like 96 or 06 or something. So now they make Dextron 4 or 5 or 6, whatever GM is up to. But most things are backwards compatible. So I'm just using Valvoline Max Life Synthetic, Dex Merc. It's Dex 3 applications for GM cars on the back. That's what I'm gonna go with. We'll see. I'll let you know if it blows up. But you just have to add it with the funnel through the transmission dipstick tube. So I'm pulling that out. This is gonna hang out here. Yeah, bear with me because there's not a lot of room right now in this garage. But pretty straightforward what you do. Funnel, it's gonna take a while. It's gonna go pretty slowly, but I'm just gonna dump it all in. And so I think when I did the measurements, I'm pretty sure I drained out about 7 quarts, somewhere around 7 quarts. Now keep in mind, I drained everything and only about 4 or 5 quarts came out. But then I had to get a new transmission pan, which took a couple days because I ordered it online off Amazon. So then over the course of a couple more days, a couple more quarts drained out of the torque converter. So depending on how long you let it sit for, if you just crack the pan, dump all that fluid out, stick the pan back on with a new gasket and fill it up, you'll probably only lose about 4 quarts. But if you let it sit for 3-4 days like I did, you'll probably lose all 7 or 8 quarts. So we're gonna go ahead and fill it up, and then I'll let you guys know how to check it and everything like that, and a couple other things to look for with transmission fluid once I get it filled up and to the right level. All right. All right, so we just did the transmission filter switch and the fluid flush. So right now we're gonna check the level on the transmission. I've already been running it around. You can hear it running in the background. I've been driving it for about 15-20 minutes, and I did no freeway driving, just up and down the street, back and forth throughout the neighborhoods, just to get the transmission up to temperature. So we're gonna check it right now. What you want to test it on a flat, level ground. You don't want to be on an angle or incline or a slope. It's gonna be flat ground, and you want the transmission idling in park when the transmission's warm at operating temperature, somewhere around 150 degrees. And we're gonna go check it right now, and I'll show you guys what it looks like on the dipstick. Here's the truck. Right back here is gonna be your transmission dipstick. Climb up in here. We're gonna take it out. We're gonna wipe it off. Nothing on it, just wiped it off. So right now you can see the fluid is all the way down about right there. So it's not in the okay range. We're gonna need to add some fluid. It's a little too low. The fluid stops about right there at that first dot. We're gonna add some fluid, cycle through all the gears, waiting 30 seconds on park, reverse, neutral, drive, put it back into park, and then we'll check it again and I'll show you the fluid level. All right, so I just added about 3/4 of a quart to the dipstick. Now I'm back in the truck here. Don't mind the dash. I've got it apart because I got to redo some wiring right now down there. I got a couple fuses out, but it's not really important right now, just so it won't catch on fire. Minor details, right? So what you're gonna do, just kind of put the brake in. We're in park right now. I just shifted it into reverse, and I'm gonna sit here, let the transmission pump the fluid through and cycle through. And we're gonna hang out. And then we're gonna go into neutral, do the same thing. And we're gonna go down to drive 2, 3, or drive 2, 1. Cycle it all the way back up to park, and then we'll check the transmission fluid level again to see if we need to add more or not. That's pretty much it from there. All right, so we're back at the front here again. I just cycled through all the gears. Clean dipstick. We're gonna go in. And you can see right there, the fluid level is right at the bottom of the OK range. So we're gonna go ahead and leave it at that. But you just want it in between, right on the hashes, in between the high and the low mark, and you're fine. And that's pretty much it. All right, so we just wrapped it up. As you can see, it's beer time. I'm not sponsored, but Anheuser-Busch, all I drink, Natty Light. So I put in exactly how much fluid I drained out, about 7.5 quarts. Everything checks out. We checked the fluid earlier, you guys saw that. A couple things to note about transmission fluid. Now I did this flush and filter change just because I just bought the truck. I wasn't really sure where it was at. The guy told me he was putting in ATF. It was low when I bought it. I went to the store, put some stuff in from, I think, AutoZone. I just didn't know what was in there, so I wanted to flush it all out, change the filter while I'm in there, and put it in a pan with a drain plug. So that's why I did it. But a couple things to know about transmission fluid. When I drained it out, the fluid all looked good. It was about a clear red color. So transmission fluid, when you get it brand new, all of it, ATF, Dextron, whatever, is gonna be, at least the older stuff, is gonna be red like this. It's gonna be a dark red, like the color of the truck, but it's gonna be clear, see-through, it's liquid. It'll be like a clear red kind of a color. Now, if it's older or they're starting to build up varnish, you'll see like a brown color. It'll start to almost look like really dark maroon, even start with like a shade of brown in it, and it'll smell kind of funny. It'll smell a little bit dirty and a little bit burnt, is what people say. That's fluid it's, you know, your transmission's getting too hot, could be one. It could be really old and dirty is another, and it needs to be changed. If you look at your fluid and it smells like burnt toast, and it's completely black, that fluid's gone. Your transmission's probably not shifting, it's not running correctly at that point if your fluid is black. That means there's a ton of varnish buildup in there, the fluid has lost all lubrosity, and it's not doing what it's supposed to be doing in the transmission. So if you're at that point, I don't know what to tell you. Some people always say don't ever flush a transmission fluid if you don't know what the life of the transmission has been, because some people say older fluid, it's got particles in there, it has metal shavings, and it's actually sticking to the pieces of the transmission and the clutch packs, and that's what's holding it together. And if you flush it out and put clean fluid that actually lubricates it, it's gonna slip right away. Some people say that. I don't really believe in it. I'd just rather fix the problem right then and there, because I kind of like to take these trucks out, do overlanding stuff in remote places where if you've got a transmission that's a ghost anyways, it's on its last leg, it's only being held together by the particles in the transmission fluid, it's not gonna last much longer anyways. So I would flush the fluid, see if that fixes whatever problem you're having, fluid and filter, change that out. It could make it worse, I don't know, I've never seen it, but maybe it will. Some people say it does. That's something to think about. But that's pretty much what you're gonna be looking at. Either clear red transmission fluid, you're good. Brown, it's on its way out, you need to change it. Black, you're pretty much screwed. Varnish transmissions, automatic transmissions at least, this applies to automatic. Manuals are completely different. They don't really have overheating problems. The clutch takes care of most of that. Automatic transmissions, primarily the reason you run into problems is excess heat in the transmission, and that's what causes the fluid to get too hot, and then it breaks down and it's no longer lubricating the transmission like it should be, and you run into problems. So that usually you're gonna start to have transmission problems when you get the transmission above 220 degrees, somewhere around there, 210, 220, 230, 240, you start to build up varnish and the transmission fluid loses its lubrosity. Anything above that, well, even right then and there, you're gonna start wearing down your clutches and your transmission. Anything above that, you're really getting into trouble. And if you hit about the 300 range, Usually at that point, you know, most trucks, 4Runners, Jeeps, I don't know about this Blazer, but at that point, most of the time you'll get a dummy light that comes on and says attention. I think on a 4Runner I had, it said attention oil temp was the code that flashed on my dash. That just means that's not your engine oil, that means your transmission is too hot. And I think for that particular 4Runner, it meant that it was above 295 degrees. When you get to that point, the transmission fluid is pretty much shot. So if that light ever pops up, or if you actually are lucky enough to have a gauge for the transmission and you get up to 300 degrees, if you're towing or going uphill or something happens where you get to 300 degrees, that fluid is going to be shot and you pretty much want to drain it and then put in new fluid. At that point, you can leave the filter in there. That's not a big deal. But you're going to want to get rid of that fluid because once you get it to 300 degrees, it doesn't work anymore. Anything else? I mean, as far as plans for this truck, it doesn't have a transmission temperature gauge on the dash. I'm gonna put one in the near future. It does have a cooler on the front of the radiator that runs through the transmission and helps cool it down. So I'm gonna go ahead and there's some rubber lines in there. I'll show you guys how to do that. I'm gonna go ahead and do a T-fitting, a couple brass barbs, and just splice in a temperature probe and then run that to a gauge inside so I know what temperature my transmission's running at. I've done that with my 87 4Runner and it worked out really good. And that transmission, it's staying cool, not because of the temperature, but it's running fine. I have never gotten that one above 225 degrees. So we'll see what the Blazer is running at once I get that in there. But other than that, you know, I'm not too sure what I want to do with the truck at this point. I'm gonna put new carpet in it because it doesn't have any carpet, so I'm gonna put carpet in it. Right now it's sitting on 33, 12.5, 15-inch tires, all terrains. And they're good, they got plenty of life left, so I'm probably gonna leave them, but if you guys wanna see like a lift or something, maybe a flip shackle in the back and then throw those leaf packs up front, maybe a 4-inch lift. It might look kind of weird if I don't put bigger tires on it at that point, but let me know in the comments what you guys wanna see with it, because I don't really have any huge plans. I'm just gonna kind of get it up and running to the point where it's daily drivable. And we'll go from there. All right, man. Take it easy.